Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I am your host, Bryan O'Rourke. Thanks for joining us today. I hope your fall is going terrifically. And this time for our interview and podcast, we have a person who I've known now for 8 years or more, who took time to visit with us from Australia, JT Tamsett. He is a very well-known business coach and speaker based in Australia, and he does his work, of course, all over the world. In our show notes, actually, we have a link to our original interview down at FILEX in Sydney in 2011, where we speak about trends at the time in Australia and across the globe in fitness. And it's always curious to hear views from 7-8 years ago as we look at them today. I think it's a very insightful exchange, and I'm glad that we're able to share that with you, the audience. For those of you that don't know JT, he has been an advisor through his company, Active Management, since 2004, where he's consulted with a lot of businesses and helping them grow their business. He's, of course, involved with Rex Roundtable. He's the host of the weekly Facebook Live JT and the Raw Show, which is always entertaining and fun. And he's the director of the Fitness Business Podcast, which I've had the privilege of contributing to. And if you haven't heard it, I recommend you check it out. That's the Fitness Business Podcast. So JT, having spent time with him, having heard his viewpoints on business and the health club and fitness industry, this is a real privilege and an honor. I'm very grateful to have had him spend time with us, and I hope you look forward to our interview. So without further ado, let's hear from JT. Welcome, listeners. And as I had mentioned in the intro, we have a good friend. We were just chatting about the YouTube video. We'll talk a little bit about that we were reminiscing on. But of course, JT, welcome, JT, from down under in Australia today. And it's evening time where you are, I assume.
Yes, it is, sir. It's great to chat to you, Bryan. I'm a big fan of everything you do and your podcast and the changes that you're driving in the industry around technology and I guess almost modernizing our prehistoric industry in some areas.
I wish I was that good. But thanks to your kind words. And of course, I'm a big fan of yours as well. And, you all's podcast and of course your JT and the Raw Facebook content and then your speech, all you do on digital and your website, JT Active Management, and your illustrious career globally, where I've seen you present, of course, and have had the pleasure of seeing you in Australia a number of times, and we share a number of friendships down there. And I was just chatting for the audience to know we were reminiscing. In the show notes, you'll see a YouTube video. It's about 4.5 minutes where we both, JT and I, speak about, and I ask him about some trends that still today are things that are topical and relevant, even though that was 7.5 years ago, right?
That's right. Absolutely. I don't know. What does that make us? Modern day Nostradamus, or we're just still running on the treadmill?
Well, you say a lot of things that if we, of course, you look more handsome with age, me less. That's what people tell me. Some of the things you touched on, one was, social media, digital marketing, and the whole idea of broadcast versus engagement. You talked about that, and isn't that still true today for a lot of fitness brands?
Oh, look, I just think as an industry, I think we've had our head in the sand a lot around technology. We've had our head in the sand a lot about social media, and absolutely, the world has changed considerably, and we've got this great platform for telling people how good we are and what we can do and how we can help people. Yet most fitness businesses are using that platform to tell people how good they personally are with their rock hard abs and their shoulders the size of Mount Rushmore. It's like, guys, that's not what the platform's about. The platform's about sharing how you can help people, not the side of the vanity of our industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, and you get into that in that YouTube video because, as you mentioned, I think at the time you were doing, I think a kind of a group discussion with people that weren't part of the fitness industry. You talked a lot about penetration rates back then, and that's still true today. Is that sort of related to that messaging, you think?
Well, I think it is. I actually think the fitness industry has done an incredible job, Bryan, at getting the fit fitter and the fat fatter. And we just are making the industry so good at our exercise principles and our technique training and even our technology that we've got to help people stick to their training programs and improve their training programs. Yet across the globe, we're still not penetrating the population. We're still not getting overweight people into our clubs. We're still not getting older people into our clubs, people that are suffering from chronic diseases. And I mean, look, you and I both know, as do all the listeners, the magic pill to health is exercise. Yet we still haven't positioned our product well enough for it to be the rightful solution to illness.
Yes. And you talk in your talks, and I've seen your profile on LinkedIn and your other content talking about that subject, primary prevention, exercise is medicine. Recently, we had Colin Milner on, and I wrote a piece for his journal, for the ICA journal, on active aging.
That was a really great show. And if anyone hasn't listened to that show, they need to go back and listen to Colin, because Colin is, I believe, one of the world's authorities on exactly what we're talking about.
I agree. Tell me about some of your thoughts around that, because, you know, I'm a believer that of all of the markets that are most, have the greatest amount of appeal and promise is active aging. Give us your thoughts about this in the context of everything we've been touching on and some of Colin's comments.
Well, I think one of the challenges that our industry has is the credibility in the eyes of medical professionals, and that it is a solution. It's funny, we talk about accountants and we talk about lawyers and how professional they are, but personal trainers are, because they walk around in sand shoes and sweats, I guess that they're not seen as professionals. But an exercise physiologist or an exercise scientist knows more about exercise than the average doctor does. And I'm really hoping, Bryan, that as young doctors start to make careers and the older doctors who weren't prescribing exercise to patients, the young doctors that start to come through across the globe, well, they'll start to say, you know what, I don't have to give a person drugs, I can get them to exercise. Just this week, my mum was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. She's mid-70s, and the doctor said, we can manage this. You just take one pill in the morning and 2 pills at night. And I said to her, well, did the doctor mention anything about exercise or walking? She said, no. She said, we can manage it with pills. And
yes,
I'm pulling my hair out. And respectfully, her doctor is 60 plus years of age. So I think this is where, as an industry, we need to stand up and we need to say there is so much technology where we can just with our phones, we can look at how many steps you took during the day. And so we can manage the incidental exercise. We can look at your sleep patterns. We can do strength training to build your bone density up as an industry. All the things that Colin talked about to prevent that anti-aging and those diseases as we age. We've got the ability, but we just don't have the positioning that we need to have. And that is worldwide. That is not just the US or Australia. It's worldwide. We don't have that position.
And it's so true. And we all know about the cost of this, not just from a life quality perspective, but the outlay globally on chronic illness and everyone knows the stats that have listened, fully 3/4 of those diseases are, preventable in the first place through lifestyle management. That includes exercise, and in many cases, especially type 2 diabetes, to your point, a exercise regimen and proper diet can correct that problem, at least 3/4 of the time, which is a much better solution, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, these days, and I keep coming back to this, is that the technology that we have that can monitor people's exercise allows us to give quantitative feedback back to medical practitioners on what their patients are doing inside our fitness facilities. We've never, ever had that in the history of the industry, yet we don't seem to be using that information, I guess, well enough to position us as experts or as that alternative to taking medication.
Yes, it's true. I recently visited with William Kapp, who's a medical doctor. He's launched a longevity performance center that is doing this, and then also applying technologies like Peter Diamandis' group, where they are combining a full MRI head-to-toe, calcification screening, full hormonal and blood panels, and other data collection with DNA. They're running it into a computer, an algorithm. It's telling people what their lifetime expectancy should be. And 20% or more, around 20%, what I'm hearing of his program, about 1 in 5, give or take. And again, I don't have this is what I've been reading. People that are under a doctor's care come in and they're not even aware of the onset of chronic illness or condition when they arrive. And then they prescribe a series of solutions that are more holistic, including exercise, diet, and other things. I just have to believe that there is a new industry that's been in the making that incorporates these various disciplines and exercise with technology to do a much better job of both treating chronic conditions in an optimal way and also preventing them. And given the size of that market and the cost of doing it the way it is, I just have to imagine that this is just a big, big business opportunity. And what do you I've done speaking the last year about, people use the term wellness. I've used betterment, from trendsetters, this kind of morphing into a new industry space, which takes a lot of these things and delivers them in new combinations to users, like stress reduction, technology, nutrition, exercise, mindfulness, all these, things together, new delivery systems. I don't know if you've seen that. What are your thoughts about that?
Look, I think the word wellness is an interesting one, and respectfully, I think that's come out of America or it's come out of Technogym, one or the other. And I'm not sure wellness is actually the right word, and I don't think we've got the best word yet to describe what we can deliver for people. And I think that's where our challenge is, because we can't adequately articulate what we can do without having a 3 or 4 sentence or even a paragraph solution. And that's where I think we can't market what we do well enough, and that's what we've got to improve. I think some of the information that Colin shared in the show we need to wordsmith that so it becomes a marketable phrase, and then we can then move forward. I was interested when you were speaking then about some of those studies. The other component, Bryan, that exercise does is it increases the neuroplasticity of older people as well. So that reduces dementia. So we're not only we're helping them from a physical perspective, but we're also helping them from a mental perspective, And then the most important thing for me is that they're probably exercising with a bunch of other people, which is the social side of things. And you and I know, as do all your listeners, that people get very lonely when they get old. And this is just what we have is a club, an old-fashioned club that people can come to and connect with other people with a similar interest. And so for me, there's this pincer effect. There's three angles that we should be attracting people into our clubs. And I just don't think we position ourselves, as I say, or articulate our message clearly enough in our communities.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the word, it would be sort of like not having a word for restaurant. Everyone knows what that is, right? So yeah. I don't think we really, there's certain implications to that people all know. It's a defined term. That's a very good insight. And I agree that the term wellness isn't it. No. I don't know what we're going to call it.
Well, I think there's a component that makes us well, but there's also a component that makes us healthy. And I just like to say, you're fit for life. You're fit to be able to carry on through life, but then people get scared of what fit is. So there's so many connotations around anything to do with exercise and that sort of thing. It's like, oh gosh, I don't want to exercise. Yeah. Or, I mean, you remember the old days that are still these days, which is people say, I need to get fit before I go to the gym.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's talk about gyms in the commercial fitness market now and this advent of omnipresence, the digital delivery. We see in the States Peloton, we see, the Daily Burn, we see all these content platforms delivering content. We see AI coaches, we see apps. When you and I were together, the Apple Watch wasn't even a thing. We see they're coming out with the next iteration of that. We see Holos with their glasses for AR, augmented reality, all these different points of do you see pure digital delivery of those things being in more and more prominent consideration in the industry space? Where do you see that going?
Look, I think when we talk technology in the fitness industry, I kind of split it into two spaces. And one space we are progressing at light speed, and at the other space we are progressing at glacial speed. So at light speed, we are progressing at the delivery of the fitness product. All those examples you just gave are just different ways for us to enjoy exercise, or for us to monitor exercise, or for us to participate in exercise. And I think that helps us perhaps make exercise more sticky for some individuals, while others, it's a gimmick, it's fun, I'll give it a crack. But the other side of the technology that we're moving at glacial speed is where we're using technology in our businesses around marketing and around the management, around prospecting, around driving secondary income spend, around using that artificial intelligence or beneficial intelligence to be able to know when our members need a phone call or when our members need a touch point before the member even knows that they need a touch point from our marketing side of things. So I think as an industry, there's a lot of R&D and there's a lot of product coming out to make the product stronger fitness-wise. But I think we're being let down at the other end because I think we don't know what we don't know as an industry around that marketing and that segmentation and that support to get people exercising. Does that make any sense?
Yes. I'm sorry, I talked over you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, does that make sense with what that sort of those two components?
Oh, of course. And, it's, I see that. And the drivers around business models in the space on the bricks and mortar side, programming, user design, experience design, hyper-personalization, frictionless commerce, ease of doing business. To do those things and execute them well, we need, a couple of key drivers in the background. And those drivers, because of cloud computing, because of sensors, because of powerful processing, we can use technology to automate low-value tasks, to deliver with data that hyper-personalization, to drive down cost, and to interface and own the customer experience in a much more meaningful way, where today the customer, they have to have that. Now, I think what I see globally is that the problem is there aren't a lot of true enterprise platforms out on the market that make it easy for operators to do what we're describing. Would you say that's fair?
100%. And in fact, I see it as almost the direct opposite, that the enterprise and the software developers in our industry, I say they're the dog and they're wagging the tail they're the tail wagging the dog, as opposed to the dog being the industry telling them what we need. They're telling us, this is what you should be doing. It's like, oh, hang on, that's not necessarily what we should be doing. We need to be able to segment our market. We need to be able to tag our members. We need to be able to red flag our members. This is what we need, so that we can get the members in to be using the incredible technology that we have within our facilities.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that day's coming. I think it is coming, but I think it's very difficult. In today's world, the winner takes all competitors in markets, and there are going to be, almost an infinite number of billion-dollar niches in the global economy in the coming decades. Yes. And you have to own the customer 24/7 through this user experience that is both physical and digital in nature. And you have to do that. And what you have to do is use these intelligent technological infrastructures to do that very effectively at a very low cost. And combining those things, I think, are a very simple way of looking at how we're going to get there in the sense of really growing the industry space. That's what I believe. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, I love the concept of streaming classes into people's homes, because that just says to me we can get outside the four walls of a gym, and we can actually penetrate into the community where we can help people get fit before they come to the gym. But we still need that really powerful customer relationship management program in the background that can drive the education, that can drive very specific information to that person who's exercising at home, because that information is going to be very different to the person who's training in the club or who's doing a HIIT program. And the power of, as you know, the power of segmentation is where it really lays in growing a business. The more we can segment, the more we can be specific about the program, the offering, the education, the support, the better we're going to have retention. We're going to draw more people into our club through acquisition because of word of mouth. But I just see that as a space that is not being filled quickly or quickly enough, compared to let's come up with another way to deliver a class, or let's do virtual, or let's do a hologram instructor. Well, that's great, but we're still got to get people in the club.
Yeah, it's so true. What for our listeners, JT, because you wear a lot of hats, you speak around the world, you're very involved in many things, in sports, in your rec stuff, in your active management, your consultative work. Are there a couple things for our audience that you think they should pay the most attention to? Are there any couple of glimmers of wisdom that you could share with the audience that you think you really need to be paying attention to right now?
Well, I have a very good friend in the industry who's often known as a heretic, but he'll remain anonymous, Bryan. You may know him. Because he challenges the industry. And I think what I'm about to say now will challenge the industry. And I've just been doing a little bit of research literally over the last couple of weeks. And if I was looking on the horizon, the thing that I think is really going to challenge our industry moving forward is CrossFit. Coach Glassman has just come out in the last few weeks and said the CrossFit Games need to be completely rejigged because all we're getting is the 2 fittest people to participate. But we're changing the shape and the health of 1,500 other people at the same time who don't get to participate. He wants to strip back what CrossFit does. And when we think about what CrossFit does, the key essence is it builds a community and there's measurement around exercise. There's no technology. It's about connecting with people. And for me, I guess I'm a bit cynical about our industry that, we had gymnasiums. We had a place where Arnie worked out, where Joe Weider worked out. They were gymnasiums and they lifted weights. And then we progressed and we went, right, well, let's become a health club. And at a health club, we all took on the cheers mentality where everybody knew your name, and part of customer service was this recognizing you when you came in, and it made you felt special and you felt like you were part of a club. And then as we've become more of a commodity, we've now popped out and become back to a fitness center, a center where people do fitness and they don't actually connect with each other. They just pay rent to go in and use a piece of equipment or pieces of equipment. And I think what happened there was Glassman kind of went, hang on, forget about the exercise modality. Gyms have lost this connection and connecting members and forming communities. And I think he was on record at one stage of saying, I have a goal that someone who comes to CrossFit class, if their car breaks down, that someone in that class will go to their house, pick them up and bring them into the CrossFit box for their workout. Now, that doesn't happen in a gym. So I think as an industry, as we cocoon ourselves outside the gym and we sit in our home office, or we sit with our headphones on, or we're sitting at a hot desk and we're not talking to anybody at work, people are still going to need this social interaction. And unless our industry sharpens its sword around connecting individuals within our fitness centers and going back to being a club, then I think CrossFit will continue to grow as it repositions and keeps driving this concept of connecting. I embrace CrossFit. I think it's a great community builder, and I think as industry we can learn from them because I think we hide behind technology rather than embracing technology and seeing how technology can help us connect other members and form communities. That's my left field.
Well said.
Day.
Well said. And my brother heretic there.
Look, mate, there's no question. I love our industry, and I don't care whether you are doing aerobics in your lounge room watching Jane Fonda from the 80s, whether you're outside power walking, running in a running group, crossfitting, or you're a member of Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness, or Equinox. I don't care. I just want people moving more. And I think as an industry, we have to stop competing with each other and come together and go, Jesus, we don't have enough people exercising. Let's all at least work together and let the individual choose the best option for themselves, rather than us saying, well, that's not a good option and that's not a good option and you're going to get injured. Well, if they get injured, let's rehab them and let's get them back on the wagon somewhere else.
Yes, well said. Well said. Any final tips or thoughts of what's happening in Australia now? Are there some unique things that you'd like to point out to the audience? Any other final tips or pearls of wisdom from you, JT?
Well, I think, one of the interesting things out of Australia has been the growth of F45 internationally. It started as a small studio, they were opening in, what would it have been, about 1,000 square feet facilities. Now they've got bigger, and they are really having an impact on the rest of the world. And, you know, for us as little Aussies, we kind of are really proud of what they've done. I give them a whole lot of kudos for penetrating and offering what may be a basic workout, but they drive community as well. They connect their members. They're not worried about the workout. They connect members, and members hold each other accountable. So I'm quite excited by what F45 have done over what I would consider a short period of time internationally, and I think that's a brand that we can keep our eye on. We're moving into September 2018 at the moment, and Barry's Boot Camp is about to open its first studio here in Australia, so that's going to be really interesting. We've got Orange Theories that are now multiplying. We started with 4 or 5 at the beginning of the year. I think we're up to nearly 12 or 15 now in Australia. So we're starting to see in Australia fitness studios popping up more and more, similar to, I mean, Sydney is a lot like LA or New York. It's a microcosm of different fitness modalities that you can do. But to the credit of a lot of those fitness modalities, they do charge decent prices. So I think that's an exciting thing. I think one of the really intriguing things about the consumer, Bryan, that I see is that they walk into a fitness studio and the fitness studio says, it's $65 a week to be a member here. You can do unlimited classes, but it's only classes that we offer. Then they walk into a gym that's got classes, they got cardio, they got strength, they might have massage chairs, they might have pools, who knows? And they go and they say to the consumer, oh yeah, it's $25 a week here. And the consumer goes, oh, that's too expensive. I'm going down the road to join the fitness studio. Don't you find that amazing that the positioning of the way the studios have gone with their pricing compared to the average club? It just bamboozles me.
Well, we see that in other markets. I mean, when we talk about the bifurcation trend, and I think that's what that is, specialization, and also the ability to snack, fitness snacking, where, I can do a couple classes and pay a premium. I know I won't be necessarily going to a cycling studio only type event all the time, and I have more choices and the market going to the upper end of hyper targeted experience. And then on the other end to commoditization. And we've seen that in shopping. We've seen that in retail. We've seen that in a lot of other industries. And it is very, very curious, right?
Yeah, I find it fascinating to think what goes through the consumer's head that says, well, I've got unlimited classes at $65, but on the other hand, for $25, I've got unlimited facilities, but that's too expensive for what I get delivered. And I think it's that accountability of the classes. I think going in and having people there and also that community and often the brand is cool. So I think if I was counseling any of the listeners, the two things that I believe they need to be doing to move forward and remain competitive, and that's not just competitive against other fitness facilities, but that's competitive against Netflix as well at home, is that they need to really work hard on building a cool experience and therefore a cool brand, and also building those communities. I'm coming back to that community feel again, so that people want to go to the gym, see their friends, connect with new people, and have an experience. One of the things that I guess prophesize when I speak is I want members of clubs to be thinking every day, I need to go to the gym because I know they're going to be doing something cool, they're going to be doing something different, and I don't want to miss out. So I want every member of every club to be suffering FOMO.
Makes sense. That's great pearls of wisdom, JT. JT, I want to thank you so much for making time for our listeners today. You've been a dear friend. I've always admired what you're about and what you do. Where are you going to be speaking next? Anything in the near term?
I am coming to your backyard, Mr. O'Rourke.
You'll be at Athletic Business. That's right.
Athletic Business, yes. So awesome. I'm going to be at MotionSoft conference in Washington the first week of October, and then I will be back to Athletic Business. I think it's the second week or end of the first week of November.
That's right, where I live in New Orleans. So I will certainly see you there.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's great. And again, can't say enough of great things about JT and making time for the audience. We look forward to seeing you in person soon. Keep doing great things. And in the show notes and, of course, the intro, we refer to all the places people can find you, follow your Facebook stuff, of course, your podcasts, all the things that you do and the information that you share. JT, thanks so much for making time today.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian. I really am humbled by this opportunity.
Hi, everyone. This is Bryan O'Rourke again. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. The podcast is brought to you by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, as well as my company, Videri Ventures, Moon Mission Media, and others. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to share it and join us again soon when we bring to you another leader in the fitness space talking about technology and what it means to our industry. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.